Happy holidays, everyone! If you can't tell by the antlers and the Christmas tree, this episode will come out on December 21st, which is the winter solstice, the OG winter holiday, okay? take take that, all you Christmas defenders who says Christmas is the only holiday this time of the year, which is absolutely not true. The winter solstice is the OG celebration. All right, it predates Christ by billions of years, I think. Yeah, but I say happy holidays because I know there's lots of people celebrating lots of different holidays and events this time of the year, and I want to be as inclusive as possible, and it's just the respectful thing to say. So happy holidays to you. You probably think I'm going to review How the Ghost Stole Christmas, but I hate that episode with every fiber of my being, so I'm not. Actually, I am going to review the 2 episodes that comes before it, because I'm difficult that way. And that is Dreamland, Part 1 and Part 2. This is the first 2-parter I've reviewed. So I'm very excited about it. Let's get right into it. Today, in honor of the season, I am drinking out of my, maybe you can see it, my Frozen 2 cup, and I am drinking hot cocoa. I'm just going to apologize beforehand. Me drinking this cocoa is going to get pretty messy, so just be warned. Dreamland 1 and Dreamland 2, I believe, are the spiritual successors to episodes like Small Potatoes and the Postmodern Prometheus, in that those episodes, all 4 of them, have fantastic elements in them. Just genius elements in them. But they're so overshadowed by the shitty, problematic stuff that's included in them that I can't enjoy them. And this is the same way with Dreamland, the Dreamland 2-parter. Like, parts of it are amazing. They're genius. The team, Spotnez, Gilligan, and Sheben, wrote this one. They did a lot of that in season 5 and season 6. Those 3 guys getting together and writing episodes. So you know there's going to be great elements in it. You know, they would go on to write loads of other stuff. Of course, Vince Gilligan is best known for Breaking Bad. But then there's parts that I'm just shaking my damn head. They're really, really bad. So we're going to talk about the good and the bad today on this beautiful winter solstice eve, which is actually not that beautiful. It's actually very dreary and nasty outside. But you know what? We're inside, we're drinking cocoa, and we're going to have a good time. So let's get into it. So, the episode begins with Mulder and Scully driving down the road in one of the many rental cars they've had in their careers. And this is something that poor Scully expounds upon. This episode is peak depression Scully. Oh boy. Girlfriend's going through it in this one. They're driving down the road, and Scully starts getting really waxing poetic about how there's people that they're passing by with families and children, and she says, and playing with their dogs, and poor Scully, man, she's just, boy oh boy, did this show ever strip her of any personal life or joy outside of Mulder. It sure did. And Mulder, I don't think, like in an episode like The Jersey Devil, he's just oblivious to her wanting a personal life and a family. And I think here, Mulder just does not give a fuck what she wants. Like, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Season 6 Mulder, I would push in front of a bus. That guy's a piece of shit. Like, I can make excuses for, like, Jersey Devil Mulder, because, you know, they didn't really know each other that well. But holy shit, you've worked with this woman for 6 years. You've been with her almost 24/7. She's followed you to hell and back. And he's just like, Sucks to be you, I guess. Like, that's his attitude. I watched this YouTube channel called Film Therapy. It's not a sponsor, but you should absolutely watch it. I also want to say, if you want to sponsor me, I will happily talk about your product. Maybe you make homemade sheep's butter. Maybe you crochet little Star Wars dolls. Maybe you bake banana bread like I do. I will happily sponsor your product and I will sell it, okay? So if you want to sponsor me, hit me up, man. Leave me slip into my DMs. Anyway, in Film Therapy, there's this family therapist and this his best bud who's a filmmaker, and they watch these famous movies. And they were discussing that in a healthy relationship, it's always give and take, of course. If you've ever been in any kind of long-term relationship, not just a romantic relationship, you'll know this. And when one person is supporting and following and giving to the other person to help them achieve their goals and aspirations, there should come a point when that person turns it around and they're like, okay, I'm going to support you with your goals and your dreams and your aspirations. I want you to tell me what the Mulder-Scully relationship does not do. Scully follows Mulder to the ends of the earth, and he will not do that for her. Now, you might be saying, what about Requiem Mulder, when he tells Scully, like, oh, you should have a life now, even though your fertility and your career and has gone down the drain, and you've watched one of your children die. But he's like, oh, I give you permission now. What about season 11, Mulder, who's so loving and supportive of Scully just because he's afraid of losing her and he wants to get her back? Like, Mulder and Scully do not have a healthy relationship. They have a toxic relationship because it's very one-sided. Like, Mulder expects Scully to keep giving to him and he will not give to her. So, yeah. Sorry, MSR shippers. It's not a healthy relationship. I mean, it might look cute sometimes when Mulder, like, holds her hand and dances with her. But you know what? As my dad used to say, it don't feed the bulldog. Damn, that's some good cocoa. I'm not a cocoa person either. I'm an eggnog person. Eggnog is like candy corn. It gets a lot of hate. And I understand that if you don't like eggnog, but the people who enjoy it get a lot of hate. And I'm like, just leave us the fuck alone with our eggnog, dude. Like, who the fuck are we hurting, man? I even drink the pasteurized kind. I mean, come on. So, as Scully is sinking deeper and deeper into depression, they get to this stretch of desert highway close to Area 51, aka Dreamland. Haha, I wonder how that figures into the title. And they get pulled over by these military jeeps. This fellow gets out. His name is Morris Fletcher. He is played famously by Michael McKean. Michael McKean, if you like his acting, his performances, that's great. He never does it for me. It's probably this character soured me on his acting, but we'll get to that. So, Mulder immediately, like, goes into his spiel, like, you're hiding the truth in the people. And, Morris Fletcher, like, goes up to him and whispers in his ear, and he says, there are no such thing as flying saucers. And I really like that moment. Morris Fletcher is a piece of shit, as we'll come to find out very quickly, but I do like some scenes with Michael McKean and David Duchovny are pretty fucking funny. And I think that's from Vince Gilligan's writing, but they're good, okay? But they're few and far between and just buried in the problematic elements of this episode. But, you know, we can't have nice things. It's the X-Files. We can't have nice things. So, just as he says that, a unidentified craft flies over. know what? Props to the X-Files for making their UFOs look pretty unique from what you see in, like, usual media. Like, I love the shape of their UFOs. Like, this one's a triangle, and it's got these weird designs on it. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool, okay? Gotta switch wrist. Again. So, the craft passes over, and they go Freaky Friday. This is the X-Files version of Freaky Friday. if you've ever watched the Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis movie. It's Freaky Friday. And Mulder switches bodies with Fletcher, Morris Fletcher. And then they let I'm gonna be calling him not Mulder. Morris Fletcher masquerading as Mulder. Not Mulder and Scully. They let them go. And Mulder gets into the Jeep with two guys. Their names are Gruden and Smooge. Love those two names, by the way. They, like Fletcher, are also men in black, doing shady government shit. And they drive back to Area 51, and we learn, I don't think we're learning this, but this episode points it out pretty well. Mulder is very bad at thinking on his feet. The podcast, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, which is one of the two best X-Files podcasts ever. The other being the Sex Files podcast, said, Mulder has no imagination. This is why he can't, believe in any faith. And I thought, that's wonderful. I definitely want to, talk about that. Maybe when we review Revelations, which I'm finally going to get around to reviewing. They go to Area 51, and there's some stinky shit going on where an informant is like telling all the secrets to Mulder and Scully, they believe. Mulder goes into Fletcher's office. Of course, he's masquerading as Fletcher. And he sees all these pictures of, like, Fletcher with Saddam Hussein and Newt Gingrich and Ronald Nancy Reagan. And then he gets a phone call from Fletcher's wife. Now, the photos of Fletcher's family are, like, right there. Like, you have to go back and, like, look for the Ronald Reagan photos. The photos of his families are, like, right on his desk. And the first thing I would do if I was in Fletcher's body would be like, oh shit, I got a family. What the fuck? So, of course, Mulder does not notice that because Mulder. He gets a call from Fletcher's wife, and oh boy, let's get into the problematic elements of this episode. Fletcher's wife, Joanne, is framed as this nagging scold, which is the most tired trope, and I fucking hate it. But oh boy, the X-Files loves to use it as a, quote, comedic element. And I'm just gonna say, the things they frame as funny, like they want you to laugh at things, are terrible things, which we'll get to. Joanne thinks her husband, Morris, is cheating on her, which of course he is. He's a piece of shit. And Mulder literally has the keys to the kingdom in this episode. He's in the driver's seat of these people who have been keeping things from him, and he really doesn't do anything with it. Like, that's amazing. Like, Mulder, you've been trying to figure these things out. You've spent your life, you've ruined Scully's life on this quest to find extraterrestrials. Suddenly you are inside the Holy of Holies, Area 51, and he's just kind of lost. He's just kind of wandering around. He's very passive. And again, like, Mulder's terrible at thinking on his feet, but even when he's in this situation for a while, he doesn't really do anything. Like, that's incredible. So anyway, he goes to Morris Fletcher's house. Of course, he's in Fletcher's body. And what's the first thing you would do if you were in someone's body? Okay, you wake up, you're in someone's body, all right? You're in someone else's body. I tell you, the first thing I would do is respect their body. I'm thinking of the Steven Universe episode where Steven wakes up in Lars's body and he says, I'm the first thing Steven says is like, I'm going to do my best to respect Lars's body and his privacy. It's like, that's the first thing he says. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, you are in someone else's house, literally. Like, respect them. Guess what Mulder does? He turns on pornography in a house with children, and he starts wanking one off in this guy's body, which is just disgusting. Like, oh, it's so nasty. Like, stop, dude. It's fucking gross. I mean, like, okay, Mulder, you're where you've always wanted to be, around all these top secret government shit, and you're gonna use this guy's body to masturbate. Okay, fuck you, Mulder. So, we get to Scully. She's riding in the car with Morris, not Mulder, masquerading as Mulder. And, I love when she gets out of the car at the gas station. And she's like, Mulder, what's up? And he's like, whatever. And she's like, okay, you just don't want to talk about it. And she's like, yeah, I'm also this guy's free therapist too. So, fuck me. Scully is so depressed in this episode. Scully is never again depressed in this episode. That's how depressed she is. Now, one thing in this episode that people give Scully shit for is how she does not immediately recognize that this is not Mulder. This is a person masquerading around in Mulder's body. I have some things to say about that. Are you ready? Cheers. This is to all you Mulder stans. Happy holidays. So, Mulder is an insane person. And his behavior is so erratic, day to day, that Scully has become desensitized to it. So, let's say, in this episode, of course, Mulder begins to kiss up to government officials and act like he's turning his back on the X-Files and Scully. That happened before in the Pine Bluff variant, okay? So maybe Scully says, oh, okay, he's on an undercover mission and I gotta play along. That's a logical conclusion to come to. That's happened before. Okay, maybe she thought Mulder was possessed by a spirit inhabiting his body, and he was actually just going cuckoo. That also happened, okay, in Grotesque. So, maybe Mulder is kissing the ass of a big-time government official just because. That has also happened in the episode Space, where Mulder absolutely helped in a government cover-up just because he thought the astronaut was cool. That was the whole reason why. So, when Scully does not immediately jump to the conclusion that this is a shapeshifter body swap situation, which of course, granted, has happened, but the other things have happened at a far more frequent rate. Like, so when she comes to this, so when people give her shit about not recognizing that immediately, I'm like, he's crazy. He's an insane person. And she has become desensitized to his behaviors. Stop giving my girl shit, okay? I am impressed that she came to that conclusion as soon as she did, all right? So just stop fucking around with Dana Scully, all right? She's trying her best. So, of course, they get called into their stepdad's office, Kirsch. stepdad, Kirsch, the not fun dad. Skinner's the fun dad. Kirsch starts giving them shit, and not Mulder must think that his butt looks lonely because, oh boy, he starts kissing it. He starts kissing his bum pretty good. And then he starts being inappropriate with Kirsch's secretary. And Scully's very put out. But again, I mean, Mulder's acted more erratic than this. Like, this is just, she could be saying, oh, it's just Mulder being Mulder. Okay, I guess it'll all come out in the wash, you know? So, then, we go back to Mulder's perspective in Fletcher's body, and we see Joanne. So, Joanne is Fletcher's wife. She is portrayed as this nagging scold. Again, quit it with that stupid fucking misogynistic trope. I hate it, all right? Excuse me. This woman's life is falling apart. Her husband's being unfaithful to her. As far as we know, she's raising their 2 children. Morris doesn't give a shit about his kids. And her life is coming apart at the seams. She's trying to keep it together, probably for the children. And she's framed in this way, like, for laughs. And I hated that. I mean, I remember watching this when I was 13 years old. And, like, you could almost, like, they wanted to put a laugh track in there every time she's on. Like, they're framing her in this way where they want you to laugh at her. I just feel sorry for Joanne. Like, this poor woman, right? Like, her life is shit. I feel no sympathy for Morris Fletcher. We'll get to him in a minute. So, this would be Mulder's opportunity to help someone, to help this woman and this family. And Mulder does not care about Fletcher's family. He could care less about these people. Like, it really highlights how apathetic Mulder is towards people and how he views them as, like, objects and tools. But, oh, he's the most empathetic person, isn't he? Fuck. What the fuck? Like, so, and, like, again, Mulder's not even trying. Like, the answers are pretty much, the show always hands him the answers. In this situation, especially, like, when the teenage daughter comes downstairs and, she's like, Dad, can you give me an answer? She's like, about my nose. And he's like, plastic surgery? I think you're a little too young for that. And, like, Mulder, she's a teenage girl. Like, yeah, she wants a nose ring, not plastic surgery, dude. like, and then he keeps mixing up the kids' names, even after they tell him, like, several times. And it's also kind of sad that this doesn't faze the kids. Like, they're used to this apathetic behavior from their father, so they're not fazed by it. And that, again, it's like, the show wants you to laugh at this, but it's just depressing. Like, that's super sad. It's like Joanne's deal. So, yeah, this is a sad episode. It's not a funny one, guys. So, Scully is beginning to see that something's up. And again, props to Scully for figuring it out, as soon as she did. Because her partner's a crazy person, all right? He's an insane person. So, I am so sorry. I'm still getting over this cold. So, there's this accident in the desert. And, these things are getting fused together. Like, this, pilot is fused with this rock, which is just, it's terrifying. That's a terrifying, image right there. And then this gas station, the poor gas station owner, love this guy, by the way. Mulder, like, gives him 11 cents and he's like, oh, I might get to close early. Like, I love this man. He's great. Anyway, I'm sure he'll live happily ever after he won't. So he gets fused to his counter, and they believe it's this UFO going over, causing this time warp, fucking with the time-space continuum. They go into the gas station with Mulder masquerading as Fletcher, and this is a really good scene where Mulder's like, we have to help this man. And they're like, he was dead before we found him, and then they kill the old man. It very much reminds me of the scene from One Breath, where Mulder is talking to X, and he's like, I want to know everything. And X is like, you can't handle it. Like, what I do every day, you're not strong enough to handle it. And again, we see that here. Like, in this episode, Mulder has been given the keys to the kingdom, and he doesn't know what to do. Like, he's lost. He is completely lost. So, Scully's mighty suspicious. She goes snooping around. She goes to the gas station, the burned out gas station, and she finds a penny and a dime fused together. And I like how it comes back later in the series. When she's cleaning out her desk and she's about to have her baby, and she like talks to Doggett, and she like, you see again the penny and the dime fused together. That's pretty good. That's a nice callback. Boy, wouldn't it be great if this show had that kind of consistency on a regular basis? Of course it doesn't. When you drink cocoa, all that really good stuff gets down at the bottom. I like to swirl it around. What's your favorite snack with cocoa? Do you just like to drink it straight, or do you like to put whipped cream in it? Do you like to put marshmallows in it? I like to put a little bit of Ready Whip in it, and then these dark chocolate sprinkles. My daughter got a hot cocoa kit as an early Christmas present from her day camp teacher, and we adults have been perusing it. So Scully's snooping around, and then she gets set up, and Mulder's calling her. He wants to meet her. She goes to Fletcher's house, and Fletcher's wife freaks the fuck out. She starts yelling at Scully, which I think's stupid, because Fletcher's the one cheating on you, ma'am. Don't wholeheartedly blame the woman, okay? Like, anyway, that's what she thinks. She thinks Scully is her husband's mistress, which of course she isn't. Mulder starts talking to Scully. Of course, he's in Fletcher's body, and he's like, I'll prove it to you, Scully. I'll prove that I'm Mulder. I know information about you that nobody else knows. And then he tells her things like, your mom's name is Margaret. Your brother's name is Bill. He's in the Navy. I'm like, and Scully's like, anyone could know that information, dude. And I'm like, yeah, anyone could. Anyone could. Like, Mulder, why don't you say something like, I don't know, this is the kind of, you anything other than that. Like, that's public knowledge, man. There is a really funny, scene where Joanne opens the door and she's like, I'm calling the police, and David Duchovny, like, claps his hands together, and the timing's really good. Okay, David, I know you're not the best actor, man, but there are moments when you shine, and that's pretty fucking funny. There's another scene in the second episode. So he's like, I'll prove it to you, Scully. I'll prove it to you. He's like, meet me in the desert. They go off into the desert. And then they realize it's a setup when Mulder in Fletcher's body meets with Scully, because not Mulder, Fletcher masquerading as Mulder, has set it up so that the other men in black will turn on what they assume is Fletcher. It's very confusing. I'm not going to attempt to explain it all. Anyway, Mulder in Fletcher's body is dragged off because the other men in black believe he is the informant. and he's screaming at Scully. And Fletcher is just standing there with a smug look on his face because he's like, here's my new girlfriend. Fuck Fletcher. We'll get into it. And so then Fletcher is going hog fucking wild. And he almost acts like he's seen this happen before. Like, he doesn't act at all like, he doesn't act like Mulder. Like, he doesn't know what to do. I mean, he's on his game. Like, he's like, I'm gonna woo Scully. I'm gonna kiss Kirsch's ass. Like, he knows what to do. And it really makes you wonder, like, has this happened to him before? Has he body swapped before? Has he known someone who's body swapped before? Like, he's in his element. So Scully goes to Kirsch and gets yelled at because, let's yell at the woman. Why not? But let's just yell at the woman. She's responsible for Mulder's behavior, of course. She gets a 2-week suspension, and, that cocoa's good. And, not Mulder, Fletcher masquerading as Mulder, invites her home to his house for a home-cooked meal. Fletcher, reorganizes Mulder's apartment, and I hate Fletcher. He's a piece of shit, but this is a pretty funny scene where he's like, what is it? Makeover of Mulder's apartment. So he invites Scully over, and I think what tips Scully off is Mulder's crazy. Like, at the gas station, Fletcher's just being a piece of shit. He's like, well, the gas cap's on your side. And then he's like slapping Scully's ass. And I think that's the OOC behavior that tips Scully off. Because Mulder, if anything, he does have gentlemanly behaviors. Like, I don't think he would do that to Scully. And I think that's what tips her off, because then Fletcher's like, let me take your coat, let me get you some wine. And Scully's like, I know a skis when I see one. And she's like, Mulder's a lot of things, but he's not a skis. And she's, so, in a scene that was part of my sexual awakening when I was 13 years old, Scully proposes to not Mulder that, they handcuff one another for sexy fun times. And they get on his new waterbed, which is fantastic. And he handcuffs himself. He turns around, and that's right, bitch. Dana Scully sets you up. She has that gun pointed to him. And he's like, baby. And she's like, call me baby again, and you'll be peeing out of a fucking catheter. And I'm like, that's one of my favorite Dana Scully quotes. Oh, I want Dana Scully to handcuff me to something. Jesus Christ. Anyway, and yell at me. Handcuff me and yell at me, Dana Scully. That's all she'd have to do. That's all Dana Scully would have to do to me. Just handcuff me and then yell at me a little bit. Yeah. And I'd be happy. I'd be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, mommy. So, Scully's like, look, bitch, you tell me how to get my boyfriend back or I'm gonna blow your face off. So, they go out to this bar, in a very heartbreaking scene. Mulder has lured Joanne out to the bar as well. You kind of think Mulder finally wants to help this woman or give her some comfort. No, he doesn't. He just wants to use her to, like, get to his goal. Mulder being Mulder, right? So they get to the bar. The general who is in charge of the, Men in Black, the Area 51 headquarters, is there. And there's this really cute scene where Fletcher and Mulder in each other's bodies begin scuffling around. And then they hide in the bathroom stall, and the general comes in. And it is this adorable moment where the general's like pacing in the bathroom, and they're just peeking over the bathroom stall, and he looks at him and they're like, hey. It's like, okay, episode, why couldn't you have been this instead of like framing problematic things as comedy? Like, this is hilarious, episode, give us this. So then the next morning, the general calls not Fletcher into his office, and he knows it's Mulder. He's like, the jig's up. I know you're FBI agent Mulder, but he's not mad at him. And again, I said this episode shines in some places. It's just so overshadowed by problematic shit. And this is one of the scenes, it's wonderful. Like, where the general's like, hey, we just fly these birds, but we don't know if extraterrestrials exist. And then this actor who plays the general is fantastic acting. He gets this look on his face as he talks to Mulder, and he's like, are there such things as aliens? Like, and he's not mocking him. He's genuinely curious. And that's why he fucked with the spacecraft that went over them. Like, he really wants to know. Like, he's like, you investigate aliens all the time. He's like, are they real? I need to know. And that's like amazing. Like, that's amazing writing. Like, but I can't enjoy it because this episode has so much problematic shit. And let's get to that. The big glaring problem, and that's Morris Fletcher. So the X-Files loves to take old white men, and they do just despicable things. Morris Fletcher is a sexual predator. I mean, he raped Kirsch's secretary when he invited her to Mulder's apartment because she didn't know that was not Mulder. It was this guy, like, playing her. That's sexual assault. That's rape. That's what it is, okay? That's no better than Eddie Van Blunt in Small Potatoes. Like, that's rape, okay? Let's just call it what it is. So he's a terrible person. He's unfaithful to his wife. He doesn't give a shit about his kids. And that's just what we know about him. But then at the end of the episode, they're like, oh, feel sorry for him. You know, he's actually a good guy. And I'm like, no, he's not. Like, he does the bare minimum. Just, he doesn't even apologize to Joanne. He's just like, oh, remember when this happened? And it's like, he's getting sentimental. And he's still saying terrible things to her. He's like, your fat ass hid the wedding cake at our wedding. I'm like, but the episode's framing it, we're like, feel sympathy for this man. Isn't he okay? And I'm like, no, it's not. The episode does the same thing with Smoking Man. They're like, this man, you should feel sympathy for him. He's a sympathetic guy. And I'm like, he's a rapist. I'm not going to feel sorry for this motherfucker. But, oh, let the fandom just burn Diana Fowley at the stake, you know? Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not gonna feel sorry for these crusty old white men. Like, I hate them. So, then, they go see the lone gunman, which is hilarious. It's a beautiful scene. Fletcher starts getting in Mulder's body, starts getting inappropriate with Scully. Frohickey flies over there, and he's like, if you touch my sister, I will fucking kill you. I love the lone gunman, and they went from, ew, Mulder's skeptical partner to, this is our sister, and we'll die for her, okay? So don't fuck with our sister. So then, Groden, one of the Men in Black, one of Fletcher's colleagues, he realizes that the time warp is resetting itself. One of the aircraft pilots got body swapped with a Hopi woman, an indigenous the indigenous people, the Hopi. I love this old lady. I know she actually has the spirit of a Top Gun Maverick, but oh my god, it's the funniest scene in this episode where she's shit talking Mulder. She's like telling her little stories about being a Air Force Maverick, and Mulder's like, shut up. This little old woman like walks up to him and flicks her cigarette at him, and she's like, you're my bitch now. And I'm like, I love this woman. I want a whole series about her. So, anyway, her spirit is switched back with the aircraft pilot, and the gas station that the old man died at, like, it goes back to normal. So they all get everyone together. The aircraft passes back over, and the time warp is reset. And Mulder goes back to his body and Fletcher returns to his. And Fletcher's forgiven for everything by his wife and children, even though he's a piece of shit and didn't do anything to change. It's like It's a Wonderful Life, but shitty. I told you this was a holiday episode. It's like the Jimmy Stewart movie, It's a Wonderful Life, except if no one learned anything. That's what this episode is. So Mulder and Scully return to their lives. Scully sees the penny and the dime still fused together. That's a beautiful scene where she's looking at it and she's like, okay. Again, Scully was always the true believer in this show. It's just she's taken a while to accept that role, that she is a true believer. And Mulder goes back to his waterbed, which is actually a pretty cute scene. He's like peeking out of the door like he expects to see the person who just dropped off the waterbed? ? So that's Dreamland and Dreamland 2. This was our first two-parter, and I gotta say, we did a pretty fucking good job. Happy holidays, happy winter solstice. This episode is going to come out on the day of the winter solstice. Go out, drink some cocoa, drink some eggnog if you love eggnog. Power to the people, eggnog lovers. I hope the weather's a little bit better than it is here, and I love you. Have a great New Year. Yeah.